Tonight is a special segment of Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb with host author Stephanie McPhail and psychologist Steve Vaccaro. Features our special guests live from Bali at a special time on Facebook and YouTube from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time only, and aired on Optimum Cable on June 14th from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She'll teach us about the secret art of feminine magnetism. Relationship expert Nora Wendell. Nora empowers women to get out of their own way by removing their limiting beliefs around who they think they can be. She has mastered teaching femininity, sexuality, and relationships, 3 topics which were the foundation of her own studies in truly owning who she is today. That's Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb with Stephanie and Steve. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
What's up, Steve?
Hey, Stephanie, how are you today?
I'm good. What are you doing here this late hour?
I know. I was just about to do my nighttime routine, and then I remembered we have a late night show here, and you're still awake. I don't hear any children in the background.
Oh, that's because they're sequestered upstairs. They were screaming just before we went live. Is part of your nighttime routine doing yoga and meditation?
Yes, it is. How'd you guess?
I had a feeling. We talked about this morning, and I know you're working on self-care.
Yes, I am. Thanks to you. This is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We do this show every Wednesday, usually from 5 to 6 p.m. But tonight, a special edition. We got an outstanding guest tonight. You want to tell us a little bit about her?
Sure. Well, okay. So I started talking to Nora probably about a month or so ago, maybe a little bit longer. And as soon as we started chatting, I said, okay, please, I hope we can make this happen because of the time difference. It could have been difficult to figure it out, but you put a bunch of smart people together and you figure things out. Nora is a woman after my own heart. She helps women really change their lives, empower them, help them really step into their strength. And I'm going to let her share all the great things that she does because she's going to say it way better what she does. But we have a really exciting conversation ahead. So please make sure that you stick around for the entire hour because there's going to be some great tidbits that you're going to get walking away from this.
I can't wait. I know she's overseas a little bit, so we're challenged here a little bit. So she's a day ahead of us and we're a day behind. No matter how you look at it, we're together today. That's what counts, right?
Yep. And this is, and what I love about Nora is her background experience. She has such a diverse background. And I think for women to be able to really lean in and listen to her expertise, I think is going to be a game changer for a lot of people.
No doubt. She does wonderful work and I can't wait till she comes on. But I like to play some games. Do you like games, Stephanie?
I love games.
Okay. So here's a game we're going to play, you and I. I'm going to say, there's some people out there that if you just say their first name, you know who they are, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of first names. I want to see if you know who they are. And if you get them all right, I got a little prize for you at the end of the show.
Ooh, a prize. What is that going to be?
I don't know. You have to get them right first. You
all right.
Do this?
I don't know. I'm ready. I think I'm. All right. Where do I got? I got a bell. Hold on.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay.
All right. Hopefully I get it right.
Here we go. The first name, Oprah
Winfrey.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You're good with this. This is good so far. You got this?
I'm smart.
Okay. Here we go. The next name. Ready? Michael
Jordan.
Yes. Michael Jordan. All right. 2 for 2. Okay. Gets a little trickier now. We got 2 more to go.
Is this mind reading? Like this is good. I like this.
This is good. So far, so good. You're doing well. I'm proud of you. Okay, here we go. Ready? Steve.
Vaccaro.
Yeah, that's good. I'm right there. Oprah, Michael, and Steve. That's good.
You're kind of the same person. I mean, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of the same person. But okay, 3 for 3. One more. You ready? You got this?
Yes.
Denzel.
Washington.
Yes, Denzel Washington. 4 for 4. That is great. That is great. Now, since you got them all right, I'm going to give ladies' choice here. It's all about the ladies tonight, right? So ladies' choice. I'm going to ask you to pick between Oprah, Michael, Steve, and Denzel to kind of talk about or show a little video about.
I'm going to go with Steve.
You go with me? Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so honored. I'm so honored. That is great. But you know what? We know each other. It's kind of like winning a fundraiser, you know, a prize when you're part of it. It's kind of like that thing. If I'm going to take myself out, even though all the viewers want to hear from me and not Denzel.
They do. They really do, though.
You know. But so who's your second choice?
I guess Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington. That's a great choice because you know what? A couple of months ago, you did a wonderful little interview with Denzel. Tell our viewers a little bit about that before we show it.
I did not know that interviewing Denzel Washington was ever going to be on my list of cool things that I've experienced, but luckily Steve had some good connections and I was lucky enough to interview Denzel Washington. He was such a wonderful, nice, genuine person. I'm really excited for you guys to see the clip.
Oh, you gave me some props. That's good. All right, so let's check it out. Stephanie McPhail and Denzel Washington. Doesn't get better than that. Let's check it out.
You are now tuned in to The Blueprint.
She's an author, Stephanie McPhail. Welcome to the show, and you're with Denzel Washington.
Hey, so nice to meet you.
Where are you?
I'm in Texas, actually.
Oh, okay, cool. What part of Texas?
I'm in Houston.
My wife went to what's the name of that school? North Texas State in Denton.
I just moved here from New York. I'm still like a newbie around here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't hear the twang. That's true. That's right.
The New Yorker, the transplant.
What part of New York?
I was in Long Island.
Okay. Cool.
So in my book, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, I share how I learned.
Wait, say that again. Your book is called what?
Oh, sorry. Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt.
Okay.
So in my book, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, I share how I learned just how important it is to have a partner who is supportive of your dreams and goals rather than one who is critical and makes you doubt yourself and what's possible. Have you learned a similar lesson in your own life and relationship?
That I should what? Have I learned that what?
Having a supportive partner. Because from what I understand, your wife has been like the backbone for you. So have you noticed that having a supportive partner is really important?
I also understood the importance because I had the platform to talk about my wife and to applaud or commend or share with applaud and commend her, but to share with people the power of what she was doing. So I was consciously sending a message. I have been consciously sending a message for decades about the power of a supportive wife. And the fact of the matter is, yes, she's been supportive in every way and just did a magnificent job. First of all, she sacrificed her career for mine.
Ready?
She's back at it now. She's back in business. But she sacrificed for our children. You know, she made every breakfast. She gave them religious instruction every day.
Take Elsa out.
She took them to school every day. So, you know, I talked about her being the backbone because she was there. You know, by the nature of my job, my kids didn't know if I was going to the store or going to Madagascar because I had to constantly leave to go get that money, you know, to bring it home. So we understood our roles, and I learned to appreciate and respect her role in our home and commend her for that. But yet, obviously, we need to, and we try to support each other. Whether one can make it without that, I don't know. My mother made it without it, the support of my father from you know, a certain point in our life. So obviously it can be done. Needless to say, take more time, not you, but we have to take more time with who we choose to be with. You know, why do we get into the relationship in the first place? Why do we get married in the first place? Is that person just fulfilling something that we think we need? Are they really supportive? Because I think experience has taught me people are who they are. I always say I never knock consistency, and a person will tell you who they are. And yes, there's a honeymoon period, even before marriage and all of that. But a person will tell you who they are. They'll show you who they are. But you have to be careful in your decision to spend the rest of your life with someone. And unfortunately, and not just in today's society, but unfortunately, sometimes we find out too late because we got in there for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, thank you so very much for joining us. We're going to move it along.
You got to get that twang, Steph. Get that twang, girl.
I'm working on it.
There you go, Stephanie.
All right,
Thank you for
now,
calling
all
in. Wow, very good, Steph. How was that moment for you?
I feel like he warmed up. Like, I think it took him a little bit to really come up with his response. But I think that he really, I think he wanted to keep chatting. I know we had other things to do, but that seemed like it was such like a good conversation starter. And I think that he brought up so many good points. And I think that's some of the things we're going to talk about with Nora too. It's not just about, being in a relationship, but it's about having that support. I have a wonderful supportive husband, and that's wonderful. And that helps me. Having a partner when I was married to my ex-husband who was abusive, that drained me. That didn't help me. It was being single was wonderful and had its beauty as well. So, there's things to realize, like to just be in a relationship and have it drain you. And even Denzel alluded to that. His mom was able to do it. It was hard, but she was able to be a single mom and take care of a family and do all of those kinds of things. To have a supportive partner, he's been lucky to, experience life with that supportive partner. So, I think he had some great words of wisdom to share.
No doubt, no doubt. So kudos to you. So who knows who to be interviewing next? You might not need me anymore. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes.
I need you around, Steve. I like to keep you around for a little while.
All right. I was fishing a little bit, so that's good. Right answer. But that's enough of the games and the great interview that you did. We have a wonderful guest here, Nora Wendell, and she's all the way across the pond here, and she does such great work. Let's bring her on because she's a relationship expert, and we are so thankful and blessed and honored to have her on our show today. So, Nora, are you there?
Hello. Good morning from my side across the pond.
Yeah, there we go. You are a joy. You do such incredible work. I know you and Stephanie know each other, but Nora, give us a little background about yourself.
Okay, buckle up. We're going in for the ride.
Oh my gosh, everyone, seriously, buckle up because Nora, she's got such good stuff to share with all of you. Like, I really can't even, I have to let Nora talk because I'm so excited for her to share some of her experience.
All right. So my name's Nora. And so I was actually born in Thailand and I grew up in Nepal and went to boarding school in India. So although I am a European, I've lived most of my life, more than half of my life, growing up in Asia. I've never lived in my home country, which is Switzerland. So growing up, culture and experiences were very much part of, what I integrated learning. Boarding school in India was very, very defining for me. And I went to an international school and it was about 200 kids from as many different countries as possible. It was all about learning about different opinions and how we could come together and build connection and relationships. I then went to study to London, and this is then where I had my panic attack. And it's one of my defining moments because I didn't feel safe being myself anymore. And I had chronic anxiety for the next 9.5 years of my life, bringing me to today, almost to today. So this panic attack and anxiety made me realize that I didn't feel safe. I wasn't okay. I became codependent. At one point, I even had agoraphobia where I couldn't leave the house because I thought something really bad was going to happen to me. So my personal development journey was really about how do I connect to the internal validation, my own self-worth and my own safety without needing to rely on another person for that. And this is now what I teach. I teach women how to find their inner confidence, how to embody who they truly want to be so that they can be in the relationship of their dreams, because the fact is, all of us want to be loved, and we don't know how to get that love. So that's one of my big missions, is really, how do we become magnetic as women? How do we not become in the wounded feminine, so desperate or needy or manipulative to get what we want? But how can we center ourselves, feel amazing about who we are, radiant, and then be in that partnership and supportive partnership like you were talking about earlier?
Wow. Yeah, that's wonderful. Stephanie, I have to ask this question, Nora. How did you overcome that? 9.5 years is a long time. And for you to do the work that you're doing now is incredible. I mean, both Stephanie and I always look at people, they go through their own adversity, but they flip it to help. They help themselves. They cope with their own difficulties and challenges and adversity, but they flip it to help others. How did you flip it?
So it was a 9.5-year journey of figuring out that I didn't feel safe, that I wasn't okay with who I was. And luckily, I never went down the prescription medication route for anxiety. I had the opportunity when I was in India. I went to the doctor and psychotherapist, and they're like, here, take this. And I was just like, okay, do I really need this? Let me try without it. Some of the tools that I learned and the therapies, the alternative therapies, was I went to dance therapy. There's this therapy called Gurdjieff dance therapy, where it was the most weirdest and wackiest thing I've ever done. And I did this when I was living in India. And I didn't know what was going on. And that helped me kind of figure out that I didn't need to always be in control. When I had anxiety, I was like, I had to control my environment. If I didn't control my environment, I would freak out because I wasn't okay with not knowing what would happen next. And anxiety and worry and fear is simply projecting into the future because you're not okay with who you are now. Another thing that I really did was NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And this is when I was already living in Bali. I then hired a coach, which was highly recommended for me in India. And so we did distance sessions, and she really helped me look at my thoughts, because our thoughts create our beliefs. So a thought we keep thinking create our beliefs. And we have multiple beliefs, and our beliefs rule our actions, right? I'm going to do this. I won't do this. It's not okay to be this. And then our actions create our reality. So in order to change who we want to be, or in our environment, we have to go back to what are we actually thinking, and what was the circumstance that created that thought. So for me, it was being in the London Underground and completely freaking out and having a panic attack, not knowing what that was, which then created a whole belief system that I wasn't okay being me.
And that's interesting too, because you had that moment, that aha moment, and that was pivotal for you to learn who you were and what you were made of. And I think that's where, when people talk about that rock bottom or whatever, for me, that pivotal moment for me was I was sitting in a emergency room with my ex-husband who had been called after I sprained my ankle. And I had the reality of like, oh, I got to do this. I got to fix this. I don't want this guy around. I don't want any of this stuff anymore. And so I had that moment too. It's funny. I posted in my group today a picture of me as a 3-year-old little girl. And then I took a picture of me when I was like 18 and I gained a bunch of weight. And then I put a picture of me when I was like in my late 20s and super fit. And the 3-year-old little me sounds like kind of like you, where it was like, I was excited about the world and got all these great experiences and things like that. 18, I was trying to protect myself. Maybe if I'm too pretty, maybe that's attracting the wrong people, or, I'm a little protection. And then when I was with a super amazing fit, it was, people will only like me if I look a certain way. So I think that women, and I'd love to hear your take on this, but I think women, like so many of us, and especially because you have that information from cross-cultural backgrounds when it comes to women, what do you think we should do as women to reconnect to that? Like when you were a child and you felt safe to be connected to all these people, and then you became an adult and it was like, I'm not safe. What can women do to reconnect to themselves and feel safe and loved and beautiful in the beautiful body that they're in?
What a beautiful question. Thanks for asking that. I'm a big fan of journaling, because journaling is simply writing out some of your thoughts that are floating around in the beautiful wave and ocean of our minds. So asking yourself this question, where am I not feeling safe in my life? What's going to make me feel safe? So simply getting the ideas out around this. Now, one of my foundational tool sets that I use with all of my clients is inner child integration. Because when we were children, we were reliant on our parents for survival. So I'm a little bit of a neuroscience nerd here, and I'll simplify it, is our reptilian brain, and one of the first brains that gets formed in the development of our human species, is very much survival focused. And therefore, safety, am I at risk, am I at home, are constantly going around in our minds of like testing their environment. Am I going to be alive? Am I going to be alive? What do I need to do in order to still be alive? So when we are kids, and usually from 0 to 7 years are our formative years for our identity building, we are constantly scanning, okay, what do I need to do in order to survive? Now, this is also where trauma bonding occurs, because we get so used to that we need to show up in a certain way in order to get that love so that we can survive. So with every one of my clients, I always ask, can you tell me about the relationship you had to your parents when you were younger? And most of them go, I had a great relationship, but it's amazing. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I had a great relationship and an amazing childhood. I grew up in India and Nepal. I still had some unmet emotional needs that are being triggered or coming out in my adult self because they want to be looked at. For example, for me, I always thought that I had to prove myself to my father. And that was simply a belief, because that wasn't the case, but I internalized that and I never felt good enough. And therefore, in each of my relationships with men, I had to be this amazing woman, and look at me, and I would love bomb them. So give them all this attention and presence and everything like this, because I'm like, I'm so amazing. You know, you want to be with me. You know, you want to love me. So I always go back to childhood and I say, tell me your relationship to your parents, and I can tell you where your wounds are.
Wow. So understanding childhood wounds is a really key aspect of a person in developing a relationship.
Yes. Oh my God. It's one of the foundational ones, because we all want to be loved, and we just don't understand where along our history, our past history, did we get, rejected, or the fear of abandonment, or we have a fear of not belonging. This is humanity fears. This is not just for women or for men. Every single one of us have these 3 basic fears. And so when we can look back into the situations in our life where we may have felt that, and then understand that that was then and that wasn't the case, and our adult selves know that, but it's called cognitive dissonance, when we know something but we don't feel it. So how do you bridge that gap into truly feeling that? And that's where that self-worth and that confidence comes in, and empowerment. I get it and I understand it and I feel it at the same time.
Wow.
Yes. I love that. And that's one of the things, it's so great to be able to connect all of those things together with clients, because you can say all day long, you can say, well, but you are beautiful and you deserve happiness. And, you can tell somebody all these things, but if they don't feel it, it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. And for me, one of the key ones, you asked, like, what was my personal development journey? And I did a lot of embodiment work. So feeling it in my body. So I had sexual shame also. I grew up in India. It's not really talked about. It's taboo. So I was covering myself. And then I never had a traumatic sexual experience. So I can't talk from that perspective, but I can talk about being looked at and stared at and feeling uncomfortable being myself because of that. And so how do you deal with sexual shame? It's the same thing. It's like, can you face it head on? Can you face it head on and surround yourself with people who are open to different ideas? I talk about this a lot. Who do you surround yourself with? What are their belief systems and their opinions? And if you're constantly clashing with it and it's not making you feel good, can you step a little bit outside of your comfort zone, which one of my mentors calls the tender edge? 1 foot is in your safety comfort zone, and 1 foot is just outside that line. So you're not traumatizing yourself, but you're exploring, okay, where else can I go with this? And in terms of feeling safe, that's a really beautiful way to kind of approach it. And so can you expand your community with people who maybe are more accepting into who you are and how you want to show up?
I love that. That's great.
This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. That's our wonderful guest, Nora Wendell. And we're talking about establishing successful relationships. How important is a shared vision or a common vision when you have that relationship?
100%. So one of the things I always say, you can create a relationship vision before you actually want to be in a relationship. And then the key is, how many of those traits do you embody yourself? So you might have your ideal partner list, but then, it's like, exercising every day and, we go traveling. But then how many of those things are you currently embodying as well? Because this is where the energetic matching comes in. And when you do come together, talk about it. What are your goals? What are your visions? What do you want to experience? And what do you want to create together? Because a relationship is two separate individuals and it's the relationship. So it's actually three different entities, because codependent, and I was codependent, is when there was a complete enmeshing of identities, and it doesn't work. Codependency doesn't work because then you can't do anything without the other person. And it brings up anxiety and nervousness because you're like, I am not me without the other person, which just simply isn't healthy. So if you come together as two separate people with two separate identities and goals and visions and excitements, and then on top of that is your relationship, beautiful. What are you co-creating together? How can you bring both of your unique strengths and understandings? And how do you grow together into what you want to create?
And I love that, because I have such a pet peeve when people say they're looking for their other half. It makes me go like, ugh, because the whole idea is to come as two full individuals, come together and share that to create something bigger and better than what you had being by yourself. So many people come and say, hey, I just want someone to help me financially, or I want someone to go, to bring me on trips, or to have a great romantic relationship with, or whatever. But they're not thinking about what they're bringing to the table. What are they doing to attract this person that's going to be another healthy, happy person? Because a lot of times we're coming from a place of, we don't know who we are, we don't know what we want, but then we want a relationship where that person's going to know who we are, what we want, and how best to take care of us.
I 100% agree with you there. It's the other half is a, colloquialism term that is just kind of thrown about. I want my other half, my other heart, like two hearts coming together like this. And I think great that you want that. And at the same time, what are you bringing to this? What do you think that is so amazing about? So let me just interrupt my own stream of thought here. So one of the things I teach women is, you are the prize, right? You are the prize. And so you don't just accept any man because you come from that needy place of like, I need the man financially to help me or to take care of my kids if you already have it. No, you are whole and complete because you're independent and you know your own boundaries. A lot of the women that I work with have very weak boundaries and they're people pleasing. They constantly need to do things for other people, including men, because that's how they feel their own validation is, by helping other people. And so really looking at yourself, and I suggest you can do this right now, just make a list of how amazing you are. So often we always think of all the negative things about ourselves. Okay, we can lose weight. Don't have enough Botox in it. I'm not tall enough, need to wear the heels. So instead of thinking about that, think about how amazing you are and what you actually do and your strengths and what you do bring to the table.
I just make my own list up.
Yeah. It's your badass list, right? It's that list of things that you've done, that you've been able to experience that other people haven't been able to do. You have a good list there, Steve?
I think I do. But another key thing is, we're communicating openly, and we have the three of us talking. But in a relationship, Nora, open communication is very important too, because if one is shut down, the other one is kind of trying to get information or establishing a rapport, you can't do that long term.
Oh my God. So my background is in conscious communication and something called authentic relating, because I am a foreigner in the countries that I was living and born and brought up in, belonging was always a huge topic of my life without actually realizing it. And so I was on a mission to feel how do people feel like they belong? And we all have this longing to feel seen, heard, and appreciated for who we are. And then I was thinking about, how does that happen? How do you feel seen, heard, and appreciated? And it's actually through conscious communication. It's actually through talking. But it's not just talking where one person is always giving their opinion. That's talking to someone, that's talking at someone. So I practice a whole tool set, which I call whole body active listening, where you reflect back, you mirror back what you just heard the person say. In a relationship, this is probably the #1 tool set that I teach to never have an argument again. Because usually what happens in an argument is one person doesn't feel heard. And you have to just remember that everybody has their own perspectives and their own opinions, because we all grew up so differently. And so you can't agree to disagree, but what tends to happen is you don't agree to disagree. You're like, no, I'm right. So instead of making your partner feel unheard, you can simply repeat back. So Steve, I heard you say that you've made your badass list and that you're really excited about that. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I think not too many of us don't come up with a list like that. We're always picking ourselves apart and really looking at the negative aspect of things. It's important to feel in a relationship and feel appreciated, to validate that relationship that you have with the good things that you bring to the table in a relationship.
I think, and I'm going to jump in there too. And I think it's to feel heard. Sometimes we just we might, and our partner might not do it to be hurtful, but for example, my husband and I are both coaches. So there are times where I just want to vent. I don't want your opinion on it. I just want to talk about it. So, one of the things that we've learned is, if I feel like I need to just vent, I'll say, all right, this is just a venting. I don't need coaching. And he'll be like, okay. And then he'll let me just say what I have to say. Because if not, we want to help. Our natural inclination is to help. And sometimes we're not helping by giving advice or thinking about the next thing that we're going to say. Sometimes we really just need to allow ourselves to be heard.
I agree. So I love that. You're like, hey, can I just vent? Totally. So I have a game that I teach too, and it's called the complain game. It's one of my favorite ones. And so I ask my partner, or then I'll ask my friends. It doesn't matter who you do it with. I'm like, hey, are you available? So I always first check in if they are available for me to be sharing. Yes, I'm available. I'm like, great. Can you put a timer on for 2 minutes? So they take out their phone and they put the timer on. And I'm like, I'm going to complain for 2 minutes nonstop. I'm not even going to take a breath, okay? Can you do that? Okay, yes, I can do that. And then I'll get up, because, if you want to complain, you want to get it all out. So that's that embodiment coming out. And I'm like, oh my God, do you know what just happened? I cannot believe that happened. And my bike ran out of petrol, and it's so hot in Bali, and my AC's not working, and rah, 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 rah. The timer goes off, and then I say to them, ask me if there's more. And they go, is there more? And so then I check in with myself. Is it clear inside, or is there more? And I'm like, there's more. And so I say 1 more minute. And so they set the timer for 1 more minute, and I go for it again. And then I take a really big breath. And they didn't have to do anything but simply be there for me as I got to release this pent up frustration and emotions. And so everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't complain. Sometimes you just want to be heard in whatever's going on in your life, whether or not that's a complaint or not. So there you go. Try that tools. Try that game with yourself, with your friends, with your partner, whoever you want. Just make sure they are available for that.
You got that, Stephanie? We're going to play that game next week, all right?
It's so good because, so often I think we try to pretend like we've got it all and we don't need to complain. But come on, we're human beings. There are things that tick us off. We can be the most enlightened and do all these great things, but there's still there's this release of the feeling, that pressure cooker where it's I've got to just share what's in my brain, and then I've released it. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I just need to talk about it out loud with someone else listening. That's the key. I need someone to sit there and take it and listen to it, and then I'm fine. If not, it just kind of keeps boiling up and becomes more and more frustrating.
Yeah, I think this is a really big key. Sorry, one sec. In relationships is where you don't feel safe to share what's truly going on for you. And that creates that inner tension and reaches that boiling point where then you do have a fight. So I want you to look at your relationship and be like, am I able to be truly myself and share all my feelings that are going on? And this is where the conscious communication tools come in, because if you're not able to be truly yourself in a relationship, well, who are you? Are you a person for your partner then? Are you pretending to be like your mother? What is it that you're not expressing? And why do you have the fear that you can't express yourself in that way?
I think, sorry, Steve, we got the women here. We got some good conversation here. I think that is such a key point. And I'm hoping that, some of my clients are watching this as well, that they said hi earlier. Not being able to communicate your own wants and needs in a relationship is a giant red flag. If we can't share, like, there are times when people say, wait, you shared that with your husband? My husband knows details that probably nobody else knows. He knows things he probably doesn't want to know, but he listens and appreciates and is my best friend in hearing them through, because I feel that level of confidence and security with him. Now, my ex-husband, who was abusive, I didn't share those things. I didn't allow myself to be vulnerable, because when I did, he would use those things against me and there would be a huge fight. So then he would get mad at me. You don't tell me anything. You don't share anything with me. Well, of course not, because I don't feel like I can. So I think for those of you who are listening to this, I think like this part right here, this little segment, figuring out if you cannot openly share, comfortably share with the person that you're with, you need to rethink what the purpose is of that relationship.
That's great. That's great, because a lot of guys, a lot of men that I work with clinically, they shut down. They keep everything within themselves, and they don't talk about their feelings or express what's important to them or express different things to their wives or significant others. And that is the key, to both people in a relationship have to express themselves and they don't need to walk on eggshells. They have to be comfortable with the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly of sharing a relationship together.
Agreed.
So what I was going to say is that so I work a lot with attachment styles, right? Are you anxious? Are you avoidant? Are you secure in your attachment style? And if you don't know what it is, do a quick Google. I don't want to spend hours talking about that. But one of the biggest thing is what I realize is that avoidance. So they fear intimacy, and every time you want to be closer, they're like, whoa, no, I can't do this. So they tend to be more available in the dating market because they're always switching partners. But one of the biggest things that I truly feel is that in life, we want to share experiences, because sharing experiences creates more joy and more happiness for us as humanity. And how do you share an experience? It's through communication. And what is a relationship but a shared experience? So if you're in a relationship where things aren't simply working out for you, you need to look at why is it not working out? How are your needs not being met? Are you not even able to verbalize your needs? Is your partner listening to you, not just like opinionating or coaching you, but actually truly hearing what you're saying? Because that's the foundation. Is like, these are some of my basic needs, and that might be, I need to be heard. Okay, that might be something as simple as like, I need you to kiss me in the morning because that makes me feel appreciated. Sharing that, and then is your partner available to provide that? That's when the conversation starts. Hey, this is my need. Are you available for that? Yes or no? If yes, great. If no, well, what can we do instead, right? How do we co-create this then together so that this is my need and you're able to provide? And at the same time, what is your need and how can I provide for you? And that's what relationship growth is. Understanding each other's needs and then having a conversation around, are we both available to provide that?
And learning what those needs are. I think that's a big thing too that I work with clients is they don't even know how to ask for what their needs are because they don't know what that looks like or what that is. And so that's really important too. And for for anyone who's watching, if you're thinking about like, hey, what are my needs? Like, what are my have tos? What are like, it's okay, what's not a big deal? Practice them, try them out. Like you could learn your love languages, and that's another thing. You can go online and do a search for the 5 love languages. Go search that out. But really, like, what is it that you need to feel appreciated? What is it that you need to feel really, truly, deeply loved? And again, test it out. You might think that it's physical intimacy. And then you're like, nah, that's not it. I need more than that. Then you're like, okay, well, maybe it's quality time with someone. So again, the love languages is great to test that out. Maybe it's just spending time. Maybe it's a great conversation. Maybe, there's a lot of things. And the cool thing is you can test it out and be like, maybe that's not really what I need. Maybe I thought that I needed it. When I was in my 20s, I thought it was more physical. I mean, that's honestly, I thought it was more physical related. I got older. I was like, nah, that's not what it is. I need that emotional, spiritual connection with someone. So start learning for what it is that you want. So that way you can actually verbalize your needs.
And a great way that I always say it is, well, it's always very clear what we don't want in our life. You're like, oh, no, I don't want that. So I'm like, okay, well, what's the opposite? That's probably what you do want then. Mm-hmm. And so you can make a line down the middle of your page, everything that you don't want in relation to like house or kids or love or is sexual intimacy, everything like that, and then write the opposite of that. And then, like you said, go and try it out and see if it does resonate to you. I have a curiosity about both of you. So what are your love languages or your top one?
I have actually almost a tie. It is physical touch and quality time are like almost neck and neck, exactly the same.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I would go with quality time and being able to attend to each other, understand what we do together, but also what we do apart. And that's important also, too. How does a successful relationship, time apart, how important is that?
Oh, well, Esther Perel, right? She says, spaciousness creates eroticism. And that's it. It's time apart from each other where you can miss your partner. If you're and like this whole last year, okay, the pandemic and isolation, you're with your partner 24/7. How did that work out for you? You're probably like, I really just want to go away on my girls' weekend, or I really just want to get out the house. It's because we need time for ourselves. We need time to reconnect to our own desires and our own feelings inside. And that needs time away from your partner. And when you miss your partner, you're like, oh my God, I miss him. I want to be back with them. I can't wait to like give them gifts or thousands of kisses or cook them dinner. And so I think spaciousness from family life also is very important, from friend life, time alone. And that's how you understand who you are. That's how you understand the deeper inner workings of, do I feel safe or not? Am I understanding the thoughts in my mind? Because what happens, and I live a very spiritual life here in Bali, and it's what I know from living in the city when I lived in London and also lived in Hong Kong, is it's always constantly go, 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 go. So we don't even take the time to think about what's going on for us. We're always striving for the money or striving for the ideal relationship or the next holiday we're going to take. So time for you, and this is where, yoga comes in. You talked about that in your evening routine. Is that right there, Steve?
Yeah.
Some reconnection time to just simply be who you are without any distractions.
It's funny because so my husband and I work together and we're at home and we have a nanny that comes to our house to take care of the children. So we literally have not spent any time apart at all. And luckily we get along well and he is my best friend. So like, it's cool. Like, he plays his guitar and I get to hang out with him on the weekend. So all that's really good. But I was very excited to be able to plan a 10-day trip to New York to go visit my friends solo. So, and again, it's one of those things that having a partner that is my best friend who I get to share things with, there was no arguments about whether or not I could go. My ex-partner, I would have been afraid to even ask. I wouldn't have gone. First of all, I don't know if I would have made it through the pandemic with my ex-partner. That's a whole other story. But with here, it was like, I'm going to go 10 days to go see my friends in New York, and I'm going to go to a concert for 3 days. All right. And it wasn't even like permission. It was just, this is what I'm doing. And he was like, all right, that's cool. Just tell me, you know, anything I need to know about the kids before you go. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. So, you know, to be able to have that kind of openness with someone, like he equally wants, and he's like, oh, I want to go to a conference, you know, in whatever month. I'm like, okay, cool. And so same kind of thing. Like you need to have that. And I can't wait to share with him all the stories that I'm going to have coming back from that trip as well.
Oh yeah. And then you get to connect over sharing, right?
Yes, I love it. I love traveling. I love that adventure. And that's definitely something I've been missing. So I'm excited to be able to get back and be able to reintroduce that for us as well.
That's wonderful. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. That's our wonderful guest, Nora Wendell. And there's another aspect to this whole thing. How important is being connected sexually?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, it's one of the big drives, isn't it? Sex.
The show is later tonight, so we can actually talk about some of this stuff now.
This is the after hours show?
Well, morning for me, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's
so I talked about sexual shame in the beginning where I didn't feel confident around who I was as a woman. And a big part of being in your magnetic feminine is being comfortable with who you are. And that includes your sexuality. It's a part of who we all are. And so I want you to start thinking about, what have I been told around it? Because the fact is we are confused around sex as a society because we're growing up, we're told it's not safe. You can get pregnant. Don't do that. STIs. Okay. Then, religion is also like, don't do it. It's not very good. It's sinful. And then everywhere you look, if you look on the TV remote, if you look on the, advertisement as you're driving down the highway, some woman's like brushing her teeth and it's like, yeah, hi. Or she's like leaning against the newest car, sex sells. And so we're so confused because we're like, oh, we're told it's not okay. But then everywhere we look, it's like sex is there. So like, what do I need to think about that? And I think that's a huge issue in society today is that nobody really talks about it. It's like nobody really talks about making money either. It's so taboo. And this is what I said around exploring your own sexuality. I talk about masturbation a lot too, because when you're in a relationship, your partner will only be doing to you what they've learned from other people. And it might not be what you like. And so you need to know your own pleasure. You need to know what you like so that you can share it. And it's not about shutting down your partner and be like, oh, don't do that. No, it's about, okay, I love what you're doing. And can we try this as well? So it's about how do you communicate that? And so in terms of sexuality, you need to figure out your own sexuality and your own pleasure first before you can have deeper layers of intimacy, particularly physical intimacy with your partner. Because like I said, you can just have normal sex, or you can go into, spiritual intimacy, physical intimacy, intellectual intimacy, and it can all happen in the bedroom at the same time. And this is where some of my teaching around Tantra, and Tantra is a philosophy of life where how alive can you feel? How alive can you feel in the moment? And it's by slowing things down. It's by using your senses. Because how do we interpret what's coming in from our environment? It's through our senses. So even right now, as you're watching this, what do you feel on your skin? Can you feel the actual temperature of the air? Is there a little bit of a breeze? Can you notice how your clothes feel touching your skin right now? So even just a little thing like this is how can you tune into that? And this is what I then teach my women is the sensuality aspect of that, right? It's like really being embodied in that feeling of, wow, it is amazing to be alive because I can feel so much when I allow myself to.
Right. Wow. Now, Nora, that's wonderful work that you do. You have something coming up, right? You have something. Can you talk about that so you can share with our viewers a little bit?
Yeah. So this is my brand new signature program, and it's called the School of Feminine Magnetism. And it's a 3-month group coaching, and it's live with me, where we go through 3 main pillars in how do you have a healthy relationship, not only to a man, but to yourself also. And month number 1 is all about inner child integration, past toxic relationships. What are the beliefs that you have in your whole system, and how do you clear that out? month number 2 is all about how do you be in your magnetic feminine. So how do you understand your confidence levels, your self-worth? How do you hack self-love? That's all about month number 2. And then month number 3 is like, well, how do you create a healthy relationship? Because for the majority of us, I would say probably 80 to 90%, we have no idea what a healthy relationship is because it wasn't modeled for us. We didn't see it anywhere. So how do you use conscious communication? How do you connect to your needs and desires? How do you be authentically yourself without being in your wounded feminine, which is what we do in month number 1 and month number 2, to then go forth. And this is a program for single women, but I've got women in relationships also joining because they're just like, I need this, even though I'm with a partner. I don't know more about myself. I don't understand myself. I don't understand how do I, create a healthy relationship. So this is launching in the next 2 weeks. So I'm super excited because this is over 9 years of my personal development journey and 5 years of in-depth study into the neuroscience of love and attraction, the psychology, like male psychology, because I teach women, how to have relationships with men, and all the empowerment tools around, your sexuality and sensuality, and how do you be a mature and embodied magnetic woman.
That's why. How do people sign up? How can they get connected with you with that?
Great. So my biggest platform is actually Instagram. So my full name, Nora Wendell. Find me there. And then all the links are on my Instagram. And if you just simply Google the School of Feminine Magnetism or put in norawendell.School of Feminine Magnetism, and I think there's a link down here too, that's where you can read more about this program. If not, and I always say this, I am so super friendly and open. Send me a direct message on Instagram. Go like, hey, Nora, I saw you on Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. You're all the way in Bali. Oh my God, let's have a conversation, because what is this life if it's not about connecting with different people and just simply saying, hey, I appreciate you, or hey, you inspired me, or hey, I've got something going on in my life. Are you available?
Wow.
And she's right. She is that easy to talk to. So don't, like, how she is right now is how she normally is. So definitely reach out to her and connect to her, because, to find someone who's speaking my language and so I'm just like, you see me the whole time. I'm just like, yes. Come on, Nora, give us more. There's so much great information. And Nora's such a wealth of, great vibes and great info. Like, definitely reach out to her and get some support with her.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
We had a question. Norman asked a question. Is abuse a choice?
I mean, so from which way, which direction, right? Is it abuse a choice towards you, or are you being the abuser? That would be my follow-up clarity question, which is another great tool set to use in a conversation. If something doesn't make sense, repeat back what you heard and then ask a clarifying question. Can you share more about this, or can you share about the context where this is coming from? So is this what Norman said? Can underlying personality disorders cause abuse? Yes, I 100% agree with that. What is a personality disorder? And personality disorders come because usually we are from dysfunctional families where you felt like you had to be someone else in order to get the love, because without the love you thought you couldn't survive. There are also neurological conditionings where simply our brain wiring is not, I hate using this word, but I'm going to use it anyway with quotation marks, normal, like the majority of us. And that is when you will need to go onto medication. For example, clinical depression. I 100% recommend going onto medication for that. Otherwise, it's really looking at childhood. And I'll come back to this again and again because it's the foundation of our belief systems of who we think we are is when we were growing up.
Wow. Well, one question, I know establishing rapport is very important at the very beginning with any client, but how do you break that cultural barrier down? Because it seems like you work with women from around the world. Is that a challenge for you?
It's a challenge, and I love challenges. And for me, the tool set which I shared around active listening, that breaks any barrier down, because when somebody feels heard, they feel like you understand them. And when somebody feels like you understand them, that means they believe that you're there for them. And so a simple, when I go onto calls with clients, I ask them one question, and it could be like, why do you want to be on this call with me? Or what drew you to book this call in for me? That's like a opening question. And they will then share. And then I'll say, what I heard you say is this. And I'll simply repeat back. Is that correct? And they'll go yes, or they'll elaborate then, and I'll repeat that same process again. And body language is also very important. So having open body language, having your hands showing, opening the chest out, smiling, all of that means you're welcoming their energy and welcoming who they are. Because the truth is, we all fear being judged. We all fear being judged for who we are. And it doesn't feel safe to be who we are, because we feel like we're going to be judged. Are we going to be outcast from society? Does that mean we won't be loved anymore? These are such deep-rooted fears we have.
Right. And one quick question. Somebody texted in. How do we practice forgiveness for each other, with each other, forgiving each other?
Oh, this is such a great one. And the number one forgiveness that I always do is it starts with parents, actually, not even yourself. Because I mean, my parents had me, my mom was 30 when she had me. So it wasn't even that young. It was kind of, for back in the day, it was, a little bit old maybe. And I think back, so I'm over 30 now, okay? And I'm like, wow. So that was already like so many years ago. I wouldn't have known what to really do. So your parents are doing the best job that they can, or that they could do in that moment with what they knew. So the work that I do is always just forgiving. And when you have compassion for someone, knowing that they're showing up in the best ability that they know how in that moment, that's when you can start to forgive. So parental forgiveness is very, very big. And then I'm like, okay, self-forgiveness, okay? Having anxiety for 9.5 years, I was so hard on myself, okay? That negative itty shitty bitty committee in my head was like, no, you aren't good enough. You're not doing it. And I was like, that was bringing me down. That was having me more anxiety. That was having me more shame. That was not allowing me to even leave the house. And so understanding that I just want the best for myself, and understanding that the voice in my head actually cares so much about me that it wants me to be better. And so instead of thinking it as a negative thing, I think of it just loves me so much. And then I give this voice in my head that's always berating me a name. I call mine Amanda. Amanda, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. I understand that you care so much about me that you feel like I should be like that. And so I welcome it. I welcome it into my life because it just wants to be heard. Same thing. It wants to be heard. And then I don't allow it to rule my life, but I then practice compassion and forgiveness in terms of, okay, it is what it is. You're there. Let's do this together. You don't have to be at the forefront, but we can do this together. And I will constantly talk to it every day. I mean, we all have that voice in our head. It's there every day. Have a conversation with it. You're like, what do you really want right now?
Wow.
Tell me more.
This has been a great hour. It flew by. I know it's early morning for you. It's later for us, but we got to get you to come back again in the future. You are wonderful. And how can people get a hold of you one more time?
Come follow me on Instagram at Nora Wendel, NoraWendel. I'm there sharing stories from my life here in Bali. Come check out the School of Feminine Magnetism. If anything resonated with you, if you are a woman and identify as a woman, send me a message and let's have a chat, because it starts in the next 2 weeks and I am here. I am here for you because I know what it feels like to be disempowered in who I was, to not feel safe being who I wanted to be. And that caused so much internal conflict. And I want to share with you everything that I figured out in the 9.5 years so that you can feel free, because every single one of us wants to feel free in who we truly want to be.
Well, you're amazing. Thank you, Nora. We're out of time. I'm going to go play the complain game now. So thank you so much.
You got to ask permission first, though, Steve. You can't complain.
Got it. I wrote everything down Nora was saying. I got it.
Thank you so much, both of you. It was an absolute delight and pleasure.
Thank you.